请收看《用易利人天》。
紧守道，为同学来建屋，大家合业经，做人处事可安心，做人处事可安心，大家合业经，身体健康心安眠，身体健康心安眠，大家合业经，做事工作可顺心，做事工作可顺心，大家合业经。
我们的主持人杨教授，以及在座的法师、讲师、各位贤士同修，大家好。我今天要讲的题目是唯心圣教的教育体制。我们都知道哈，而且从最早期的从最小儿童学易经开始再透过我们易经大专班的历练，一系列的成长教育，同时兼办世界华人易经心法暨风水养贤班。稍后呢，我们就可以做什么终身的学习教育哈。这样不仅是父母受益，海外华人受益，更是子孙后代的福报。能成为一部传家之宝是易经。当下的易经均靠各位每个阶段同修在生活上所发生的点点滴滴搭配义理的印证，汇编成册，其所探讨的事情是透过我们专家的访谈以及实际印证案例的探讨，让大家能够更了解易经与教育的重要性。唯心圣教是以至圣鬼谷先师王禅老祖为师尊，以中华文化道统、易经风水学为法源，以和平的方式达到世界真和平为本愿。从1983年农历正月15号15日在台中成立医药社开始帮助众生广结善缘并教大家要如何修行，引导众生走向光明大道，让大家让家庭及事业皆能获得平安。我们中国人间净土功德基金会成立到现在几乎都举办了很多的阳宅风水学的讲座接引无数大众我们的足迹也是遍及世界各地。那么因应科技时代的潮流我们在2009年的时候，更成功的取得卫星电视台成立了维新电视是全世界唯一以易经风水为主的专业电视台。开播以来呢，我们也获得一致的好评。唯心圣教宗主上文下元禅师本着世界和平大悲愿，带领所有唯心圣教门下弟子弘扬中华文化道统，以世界和平为中塔，祈求龙天护法保苍生，化解干戈息战争，意愿人心相疼爱，同祈世界永和平。我们在唯心圣教易经大学里面有一个宗旨就是养贤蓄才，正明育德，高尚其志，天下太平。易经大学我们是以私人的方式成立的我们可以分阶段性的教育刚开始我们是以弘法为期大概就是2个月做弘法的宣布宣导，然后进而再成立什么初级班初级班在所学当中有2年的时间，2年以后我们把所有易经的基础把他们打得很稳固，然后呢再把他们推向正期班，由师父亲自授课。同时我们还有一个单元是海外华人养贤班然后还 过来就是我们好不容易民国85年的3月26号我们鬼谷先师圣诞日成立了义军大学义军大学的对象不分种族、不分贵贱只要有缘、有善心的人都可以参与我们在弘法班的时候，很多学员就问说，很多的信众就问说，我要来学易经有没有什么条件呐？我都跟他们讲，你认识字吗？你认识字，我们就有这个义务教你们把易经学好。那有时候会碰到说我唔捌记要安怎，我唔要紧，唔捌记恁来教恁上经，上到一定的程度就是人家讲的心诚则灵而且我们还有一个特殊的就是我们有文书。我们这个文书，你念到心诚所至，金石为开的时候，可以用一句比较玄学的话来讲，叫做什么？隔空取物，心想事成我们这个易经大学的师资以正期班里面，我想我们都是卧虎藏龙，里面都有很多的各个都是精英。那么我们的这个学校，那个易经大学的师资，就从历届优秀的学员里面遴选出来，同时邀请社会大众每个学校的专业人才教授大师，我们一起共襄盛举这个易经大学我们易经大学在2007年，民国96年的8月我们有购买了一个30公顷30公顷的那个地完成了我们的风水学院唯心圣教易经大学以学校以台湾为学校，以各乡镇分校以实际参学研究方式以人格及学识相长修养精进。结业后呢，我们都会给他颁布他一个证书，这个证书呢，也是我们所谓讲的果位也就是在我们四维八德里面的忠孝仁爱信义和平那个忠心贤士呢，就是我们的初级班读了2年，你就有忠心贤士的果位呢再过来每一年都有那个正期班，每3年进阶1趟所以全部完成这个学业。要多久？大概就是24年到26年也很精进那个易经大学我们现在以下就简称易经暑期大专班我们在招募这当中呢我们所有的学费、所有的食衣住行都免费。那么我们这个免费的经费来源呢，就是由我们大家由我们的那个各个道场，还有善心人士的供养易经呢，我们可以讲说是幸福的种子。王成老祖师父就是我们的什么？幸福神仙大专学子们来到了培训这个圣地大安寺就是我们的什么神仙的地方在暑期大专班学习了1个月。然后呢，学习当中呢，把它带回去家庭、学校、朋友，要继续去认真浇水、灌溉以及施肥。我想这一颗幸福种子能够让大专学子们将来的人生开花又结果，他们每一个人的人生一定会相当的丰富，精彩美丽、幸福满满，我们以上看到的这个就是北区教务处的大安寺，它就是我们的什么幸福的地方幸福神仙的地方。再来我要介绍的就是儿童学易经。儿童学易经是从小开启每一个小朋友的灵性。儿童学易经它有分夏令营跟冬令营，那个我们在2013年的时候8月开启第1届，刚刚我们有一个原来讲师他是讲学校的，用活动来跟学校举办做结合，那这个就是我们什么？冬令营跟夏令营就是夏天在暑期还有到那个到过年前这一段时间我们都会有一个那个夏令营的一个活动。 儿童学易经的营队，我们的对象主要是在9岁到12岁，哦。它的设计课程呢，它是摆脱教室的制式的教学方法，没有课桌椅，让小朋友在快乐中学习易经风水及礼仪的知识，那么你儿童学易经师资怎么来？就是从大专班历届的大专班遴选优秀的学员，然后再佐以我们正期班的。一些有专业的对小朋友有包容、有爱心的一些那个闲事同修来训练，让大朋友呢学习了解如何带小朋友，让小朋友呢学习什么佛的礼仪，如何持香，如何礼拜儿童学易经我们要把它分成3个阶段。第一个阶段呢，就是学做人要自主负责，现在少子化。很多家长疼小朋友，舍不得给小朋友操持家务啦，或者洗洗地、洗洗碗，从来没有，舍不得啦，所以呢，我们要让老师以及那个小虎队的小队长用以身作则的方式教导小朋友，学到一些平常你在家里不可能让你做的，像扫扫地自己的衣服洗一洗，从来都没有。那么透过这一部分，让他们来学习自主负责。另外一个就是学做事要有爱心跟关怀，在心理部分我们要透过活动透过游戏，透过一些简单的身体记忆方式，让小朋友能够以最快速的方法记住于易经风水这样的一个知识在我们再透过第三个阶段学习心要学会什么？尊重与包容。我们在尊重与包容里面的行住坐卧就是这个示威仪行如风，立如松，坐如钟，卧如弓的姿势。行要有行的样子，坐要有坐相，睡也要有睡相呢，对不对这部分我们都给他正确的指导。鬼谷先师开示：施者无业障，受者业障多。唯心圣教推广易经的教育，完全是由唯心圣教各分支道场来来护持的。祈愿易经教育有一天能得到普传，则人生不会虚晃一招。当你那个儿童学易经夏令营结束以后，我们得到以下的一个结果就是第一个可以提升学习效果，小朋友的学习能力强。他们的记忆也特好的，所以你教他什么，他就吸收什么。给他一个正确的思维，可以提升效果。当他们回到学校的时候，第一个，他们的可以很明显的看到他们的成绩进步了。很多家长打电话来，跟这个袁德妈妈讲说，我的囝回到考试的时候从来。以前都会说为什么要考试怎么样，会很多的抱怨。可是呢，自从来这边夏令营、冬令营过后呢，他们的成绩明显进步。再来就是稳定情绪，情绪的静心沉思下来，你会发现到起心动念会化于无形呢。也就是所谓我们现代人讲的情绪管理，它比较有自主性，也比较不会让父母操心。再来第3种就是开发潜能，开启内在的智慧。我想学易经，智慧是非常重要的。何时何地可以做，什么可以做，什么不能做，在都是从易经里面启发出来。另外，我们还有一个海外华人养贤班，为将中华文化道统弘扬到世界。每年举办海外华人养贤班，招收海外华侨回来学习易经。学习的时间4个月，4个月，行住坐卧、吃喝拉撒，全部都是由我们的宗门来护持目的就是希望借由他们的学习，将易经心法及风水妙法推广到其他的国家，让居住在世界各地的华人共同承传中华文化的道统。以上 是我的论述，再下来我们用实际分析，好实证。我们有一个王师姐，她是来读大专班的，那她的学科是中医师学推拿的。那么她在我们这边受完这个大专班以后，回头到美国德州去。那么德州呢，美国德州它那边有一个对我们华人其实蛮友善的哈，它每年呢10月它都会开放给我们申请那个绿卡的名额。那么绿卡的名额当中呢，它会有让你申请一些名额，另外剩下的名额就是抽签。那么我们这个是王师姐，她是79年次，很年轻哈，就打电话来说，老师，我能不能拜托你帮我看看，我有没有这个福报？那也要加高供呢，有学过易经的人哈，他就说，我有没有这个福报抽中绿卡？那我当下呢就帮他占了一个卦。这个是在106年的4月10号，我当下帮他占卦，泽水困之雷地狱，手起带时之青龙得位。我们都知道，一个卦象，你要占卦要问事，一定人事地要说清楚讲明白。再过来人事地讲明白，卦占出来以后，重点在哪里？用神，你一定要知道用神要如何去用，你的解卦大概都70%到80%没有问题。那么我们讲绿卡，它是一种契约行为，所以绿卡我们就把它用在什么？父母爻。那么绿卡要拿绿卡是国家与国家之间的交易。那么国家与国家之间的交易，我们要讲什么？官鬼。为什么讲官鬼？因为政府升官发财，所以你用神要用官鬼。我们来看它的这个卦象哈，世爻为妻财，应爻为子孙福报。刚刚我有讲过，他打电话来问他有没有这个福报，对不对？所以这个福报我们就以子孙爻为主，应爻来生世爻，可不可行？可以，应该机会很大哈。那么我们都讲玄机造一动，有动必有用。在这一个部分里面我们来看世印当中巳火回头生父母，国度与国度之间的绿卡又有契约来赞助，又旺相呢。所以我跟他断你会拿到，但是是不是这个时间点？不是。为什么？因为月令跟子孙巳亥破，代表今年有没有机会？今年没机会。那么要等到什么时候？一定要等到冲破，应期冲破，也就是在亥年的时候他才拿得到哈。好，我们印证的结果哈，在106年的时候，我跟他占，他就告诉我说：“老师，我好失望哦，我没有办法抽到呢。”我说：“你不要气馁，你在要很多事情，好事人家讲事缓则圆嘛你要有耐心，你一样你要去工作啊，对不对？那么你可以的话。”再找个机会假如雇主不愿意帮你申请资料，那没有关系，顶多再换一个，对不对？再换一个老板就好了嘛。结果他在107年的时候又换了老板。这个老板对他真的很不错，因为他也是有打电话回来叫我帮他占卦，我帮他选择了这个老板。这个老板呢，出乎意料之外，疼他疼得像自己的女儿，然后又怎么样？提供相关工作的资料给他，果不其然在108年己亥年4月20号打电话叫华业说：“老师，我有了，我抽中了，真的是他的喜悦也感染到我所以在我们卦象看的时候，有跟他讲是在什么108年己亥年会抽中就是应期一开为。我们的答案就出来了。另外，我想现在少子化，这么少子化呢，望女成凤，望子成龙，都是一般父母心中的抱。那他现在要来问说，小孩子要升国小了，要怎么办我就在跟他占一个卦总共3个卦，虽然不是很理想，但是呢，最起码 这一个可以给他平安，所得的叫做雷水解之，雷山小过。求人出一枝独木桥，过独木桥哈。为什么会过独木桥？独木桥也叫奈何桥啊，也无可奈何，因为我跟他讲，你不要去读私立国小，你去读那个政府立案的就可以了。用神呢，我们就是用子孙。学校为官轨，玄机造一动，有动必有用。世爻为子孙，无火回头生妻财。此间国小的本质是不错的。应爻答案为青龙带官轨，说明此学校是什么？做事很阳光面，对小朋友的包容性也够。好，那我在112年的时候突然想到，就去问，你现在你这个小朋友怎么样？老师，我讲好，你家在我听你的话，我听你的话。小朋友现在去，快快乐乐的去，快快乐乐的跳着回来。老师长，老师短，印证了他在这个学校里面是非常的非常的快乐。因为时间的关系，我把它做一个总结因为准备的很多啦，我来做一个结论。易经古至今用在实证分析与研究方面过程中，从角到地，从上到下，从左到右 ，X Y Z， 这都是要一个法，这个法就是卜字，那个就是占卜。谢谢。
And now, let's welcome our host to take over the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. So I have the opportunity and luck to be presiding this session. My name is Bernadette Rigal-Sillar. Some of you know me. And I have the privilege of introducing G. John Gordon Melton, who is one of the 5, I would say, best specialists, or maybe one of the two, or one of the only one, best specialist of contemporary religions. And we have known each other for quite a long time now. And some 10, 15 years ago, he became a distinguished professor at the University of Baylor University in Texas, which is the equivalent of winning the Nobel Prize when you study religions. So there are very few people reaching this level. So. Which is true, yes. And once he was there, once he reached Baylor, he worked even more than before. So he has produced many encyclopedias, and he has led several teams to measure the size of religious groups, etc., etc. So we owe him a lot, and I'm very glad to be introducing him now. So he will tell us he will talk about some of his latest research, and he will talk about Chinese traditional religion in the United States, its emergence, decline, and rebirth, which is slightly different from the title you have in the program.
New title, same paper. Almost unknown in standard histories of American religion, traditional Chinese religion centered upon the veneration of the many deities of ancient Chinese culture, and emerged across the West in the last half of the 19th century. Declined to the point of disappearing in the wake of anti-Asian animosity permeating the Anglo majority, but has experienced a rebirth in the wake of the 1965 revisions of immigration law. The religious history has been pushed into obscurity as many scholars, including myself, lacked categories with which to understand what they saw, and branded the early traditional Chinese religions as an outlier of Buddhism. While a few Chinese have found their way to the west coast of the United States, earlier, it was in response to the discovery of gold in California in 1949 that they began to arrive in significant numbers. Between 1850 and 1890, more than 100,000 arrived. After landing in San Francisco, they initially dispersed through the northern half of California. But by the 1860s, were making their way south to towns like Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, and San Diego. They also moved into adjacent states, both in search of the next gold or silver strike, or to seek new jobs as mining was abandoned. Overwhelmingly young males, many would lead long lives, but never marry nor leave descendants. By 1890, by which time the United States had moved to block further immigration, the population had begun a steady decline, and by 1930 was reduced to approximately 61,000. It recovered somewhat after World War II, but only began its steep rise after the new 1965 immigration law reversed the 8 decades of anti-Asian immigration legislation. Today, there are more than 4 million people of Chinese heritage in the United States. Important to understanding the wave of immigrants that arrived between 1850 and 1890, however, was their origins in Southeast China. They did not appear from across China, but almost entirely originated from the Pearl River Delta, the towns and villages of the coastal region of Guangdong Province. The new visitors to California brought with them their religion, a form of traditional Chinese spirituality, often called folk or popular religion. Although a full discussion of their religion is beyond the scope and purpose of this paper, two features are of particular importance. First, it is a polytheistic religion, recognizing the existence of hundreds of deities. Among them, about a dozen have shown up as the most popular. We begin with Beidai, the god of the north, prosperity and earth gods. These two, while popular, very, very popular, were almost never the central deity of the temples that were formed. Very popular as the central focus of the temples were Guandi and Guanyin, one a military goddess, a god, and one the goddess of mercy, one of the most popular deities, and the occasion for confusing these temples with Buddhism, since Guanyin shows up as a bodhisattva in Buddhism. I'll quickly move through these. These are the deity on the right is a popular child god from Hong Kong, the other a healing deity. And then, of course, the most important one, Tenhao or Matsu, who has emerged in current, among the current temples as possibly the single most popular deity. Secondly, understanding that polytheism among traditional religionists is a belief in the rational order of nature and a sense of balance permeating the universe and our shared reality. This belief appears to be inspired by Taoism and supplies the rationale for contemporary temples to self-identify as Taoist. These temples are quite distinct from other Western Taoist temples that identify as followers of the philosophical teachings of Lao Tzu, who venerate the three pristine ones, and whose gathering places eschew any reference to the previously mentioned folk deities. Nevertheless, the traditional temples have their place within the larger Taoist world, even if that place is located somewhat at its edge. The deities were housed in a temple generally referred to as a joss house, the term joss being a derivative of the Portuguese word for deity, deus. Accompanying the deities in their joss house world would be joss sticks. That's the three pristine ones. This is one of the surviving joss houses in Northern California. But inside the joss houses, one would find joss paper, sometimes called hell money, burnt to assist relatives and friends trapped in the lower rungs of existence in the afterlife. You may remember yesterday when we were in the temple space here that there were bundles of joss house money, hell money, sitting there. Joss houses were erected wherever the Chinese settled across the United States, and by 1890, they had reached as far east as South Dakota and El Paso. They created a presence in most of the western cities along the coast from Seattle to San Diego and eastward to Boise, Idaho, Denver, Colorado, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. Recent researchers have documented close to 150 joss houses from this era. The first of these joss houses, or at least the oldest one that has survived, is located in Weaverville, California. Joss houses stand out. This joss house stands out in that it claims to be the oldest, dating from 1850, soon after the gold rush began, and within a few years became a home to some 2,000 Chinese. When the gold ran out, the town survived on lumber. The original joss house burned in 1874 and was replaced by this present building. Though the Chinese community has declined steeply, it has been able to keep the temple functional. A major accomplishment in that endeavor occurred in 1956 when the temple aligned with California's state park system. Thus, not only does the temple remain open for worship, it has become a major tourist attraction for those who venture into Northwest California. Other temples laying claim to being the first joss houses were in San Francisco. There's a problem, however, with documenting San Francisco. As you may remember, in 1906, the city was destroyed by a fire and earthquake. Thus, all of the temples that existed prior to that time were destroyed, and the records, along with their records, so that documenting the present existing temples in San Francisco and their continuity with those founded in the 1850s is still a difficult problem of history. The records that we have are things, as you see on the screen, pictures from old newspapers that survived, pictures taken mostly toward the end of the 19th century of the joss houses that existed at that time. Of the 150 joss houses that existed around in the 1890s, only a dozen or so of them still exist, and only 5 or 6 of them are still active as temples. The most difficult period of reconstructing the history of the spread of the original traditional religionists across America begins at the end of the 19th century. The years from 1890 to 1950 constitute a period of decline and of the disappearance of what was once a vital religious community over the American West. Over the second generation of the Chinese community in America, it faced a 40% population decrease. This decrease has been attributed to the large number of the first generation that did not reproduce themselves and the stopping of immigration following the passing of the Chinese Exclusion Act in America in 1882. It was also the case that many Chinese abandoned the traditional faith, thus allowing the numbers of believers to fall below the level that would support a temple. Equally influential was the general hostility toward Asians in general and Chinese in particular during the period. The hostility was reflected not only in the violence shown toward Chinatowns across the country, but the general indifference to Chinese communities who were in the way of urban growth. Legal hostility was reflected in the regulations preventing Chinese residents from attaining citizenship. Interestingly, however, during this time of relative decline, in several places, traditional religion experienced a new beginning. This is, by the way, is the altar from the Santa Barbara, California house that is now in the museum in Santa Barbara. One of the places where traditional religion had a new beginning in the late 19th century was Hawaii. This is our pictures from the Kuan Yin Temple in Honolulu. It was founded at the end of the 1870s. Man migrated to Hawaii, which had different immigration laws from the rest of what was the United States. He brought 2 statues with him, one of Guandi and one of Guan Yin. Guan Yin, being the large statue, became the main statue, and the local people identified this as a Buddhist temple. If you search out the Kuan Yin temple in Hawaii now on the internet, it will still identify it as a Buddhist temple. There is no mention of traditional Chinese religion or Taoism. Among the other temples that were founded at this time is the Wohin Society Hall located in Lahaina on Maui. It was erected in 1912 as a multifunctional hall to serve the plantation workers on the island. The temple was located on the second floor with Guandi as the major deity. Abandoned in 1940 as the Chinese population in Maui declined, it was restored and subsequently reopened in 1984 as a museum. Unfortunately, it was lost a couple of months ago when the whole city of Lahaina was destroyed in the fire, which I'm sure you saw on the news. New York was another place where traditional Chinese religion began to appear toward the end of the 19th century. Following the Chinese Exclusion Act, American Chinese living in the western part of the United States began to move across the country, and they found an area on southern Manhattan that became what is still to this day Chinatown, Manhattan's Chinatown. And here the first joss houses in New York were erected. These two buildings that you see here are both joss houses, two different joss houses next to each other. They're located on Mott Street. There were other joss houses that this one on Pell Street survived. This particular picture is part of a whole trend that went on in New York in the early 20th century called slumming. Chinatown by the 1920s in New York had become a place where rumors collected of gang wars, of murders. It was an area of relative poverty to Midtown New York. And wealthy New Yorkers would come to Chinatown and take tours. Here's where the murder occurred. Here's where the gang war was fought out. And then stay to enjoy some Chinese dining. But because of the slummers, there were pictures taken of Chinatown and sold as postcard souvenirs. And so that much of our records of this early era in Chinatown is due to the popular craze. Oh God, I got to get finished here. All right. The other place where you get some survival is in San Francisco. Interestingly enough, because of the 1906 earthquake, the temples, the early joss houses, which are on the floor, became part of high rises. And today, if you walk around Chinatown, almost all of the joss houses are 3 and 4 and 5 stories up in the air. Because of the change of immigration laws that began in the 1940s, because China was an ally of the United States in World War II, immigration of Chinese began again after some 70 years of being denied. And as Chinese populations grew, a whole new set of temples have arisen. Along with the changes that occur in 1965 are the changes that occur at the end of the Vietnam War, when a large number of Vietnamese were admitted by special legislation into the country. Many of those who came were from the Chinese community of Saigon, and generally all of Vietnam, but particularly Saigon, the Hoa people as they're called. And many of the new temples that have been built were built particularly by the Hoa people. Here are 2 of them. These are the ones in El Monte, California, and the one in LA. You can see that they have a resemblance to each other. The LA temple is actually birthed off of the El Monte temple. They are both very, very impressive works of art. A second place that they developed was in Texas. This is a large temple built primarily by people from Hong Kong, as best I've been able to find out, but also by the Hoa people. This is a temple dedicated to the Jade Emperor. And this is a temple I've just visited that came from Taipei. The couple, a brother and a sister, founded this temple dedicated to the Golden Mother. It is an attempt to establish in New York what is the Golden Mother Temple in Taipei, which I got to visit a couple of days ago. Here is the second floor of the New York Golden Mother Temple. You can see the 60 deities to the 60 deities of the year of the Chinese calendar, and this is the only one of the new Taoist temples I've found that have statues to the three pristine ones. This work of putting together this history has almost all been done since the beginning of this century. I offer up two books here that are the prime references to this work. It is just beginning to put together this history, and hopefully we will have it done before I pass from this life. So thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is from Romania and is Serban Toader, and he teaches at the University of Brașov, and he's going to tell us about the first and only Buddhist temple in the Romanian capital, and he has entitled his talk, you see it here, Neither For Nor Tao, but Both, Exploring, and he gives the name of the temple. So, you want to remain in that corner? Okay, yes, go ahead.
This is the fifth slide, actually. The title of a paper I wrote some years ago and published 3 years ago in Occasional Papers on Religion in Eastern Europe. So my presentation is based on that article with some new added information. So we should go now back to the first. First, some information about the Chinese in Romania, compared to what we have seen, what happened in the States with 4 million Chinese people. Now we see only 7,000 people, Chinese residents, plus around 2,000 ethnic Chinese with Romanian citizenship, which are different to the ones that have just permit. And this was constant figures in recent 3 years, and the community was established after the fall of the communist regime. So now we have a third generation emerging, and the large majority lives in the second district, please. This is Bucharest, and the second district, yeah, right, around this. Among second district of six districts, with a population of 3 million people. And why is like this? The situation is like this. This is because there is not just one wholesale market in that area, yeah, very linked with the Chinese community. And now it is not very clear. We have too many colors here. This is the market, yeah, the place where the market is. And this is where the temple, I call it a Chinese temple because there is such a confusion that people see Buddhas or Kuan Yins and think they are Buddhist. And actually, it is a Chinese temple. I think this is the term. Yeah, a Chinese temple. And about the market, yeah, we see here the Chinese have the smallest prices. They use this stereotype as a successful commercial. And now again back to the abstract. This was the abstract of the article. This is actually what I should finish with. Neither Buddhist nor Taoist, but both, or even more. exploring the whole of infinite principle, I translate it like this, like Guang Li, my translation, very subjective. Guang Li Fotang, a Chinese temple, in the singular Chinese temple, actually, in the Romanian capital, which belongs to syncretism, Maitreya Great Tao, Mila Tao, and we can find there elements from Buddhist Taoism and Confucianism too, and it's no secret that they are all intertwined and so on.
Om